On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gotta rock the intro for the postcast. What's up, everybody?
That's awesome. I love that.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the postcast. This is something we're going to start doing on this show for major stuff. Trying one for the draft, but we'll do it after games in season, just like Locked On Timberwolves and Locked On Wild are doing, and Locked On Twins are doing right now after games. We're going to be doing it too. So I'm Luke Braun. I'm your host, your pal, Kitty copied off in math class, and I'm here with Luke Inman. I don't know what superlatives you want, but get in there.
Dude, do not set the bar high, all right? I'm just coming in. I'm exhausted. I know you are too. We were all jacked up, wired all week. Yep. We've waited months for this. It's such a fun, chaotic weekend. I'm having a hard time keeping up with the trade value chart. I got to figure out what Viking Twitter's going to say and analyze after, obviously, the huge drop back on night one, but even more chaos happened today. So the Vikings still have a couple more picks tomorrow. We'll see how it all shakes out when the dust settles. But yeah, man, tough to keep up. I'll just say that. Yes.
And let's not worry too much about the value charts and bogging down the numbers and stuff. That's for the proper Locked On Vikings show. I'll do the math class stuff later. Let's talk now about the guy they picked. So they trade back with the Packers of all people, who go and get Christian Watson out of NDSU. Wasn't my favorite guy, so I'm actually okay with that. But then they pick Andrew Booth out of Clemson. They picked the guy that a lot of people would have liked at 12, and they got him at 42 after trading back and then trading back up with the Colts. So they only actually ended up moving back 8 spots, and they get Andrew Booth at 42. Luke, you're a tape grinder, as it were, a tape muncher, some might say. What do you think about this guy?
Physical, man. Just matched up very well.
Street fighter.
Very well, right, with Lewis Cine. You can tell they were going for a certain attitude, specifically on defense and inside the secondary. And I think they just completely revamped that secondary with the combination when you put them side by side of Lewis Cine and now Andrew Booth. Physical, they get downhill fast and will punch you in the mouth. I really like, again, just the the attitude that they give you now in the secondary. He's pro ready for sure. He checks those boxes. You just mentioned it. I think any of us would have been satisfied moving back, and then we all had about 3 or 4 names, right? Trent McDuffie, Andrew Booth, Roger McCrary. There's probably one I'm forgetting, but I
had the safeties in there too, Cine and Dax Hill.
Yeah, exact. Daxton Hill was another favorite of mine. So, getting him where we got him, now it feels like great value. Again, when you put the whole pieces of the puzzle together and you add in Lewis Cine, it feels a lot better watching that part unfold, certainly after that big drop off when you're kind of left with a little, salty taste in your mouth moving so far back and giving up that second pick. All in all, I do love the additions. They needed cornerback and
they needed secondary so bad.
So bad, man. So bad. What are we going to do? Chris Boyd again this year? What are we gonna, put all the pressure on Cam Dantzler? That's not fair. So I really like the additions for sure of those 2 top picks. I think we got really good value. Lewis Cine, that was right where he was supposed to go. I got a Bucs insider who was whispering in my ear, had they not traded back, they were going to punch it. The Bucs were going to take Lewis Cine with their pick had they not traded back with the Patriots. So perfect value, I think. It makes a lot of sense, checks all the boxes, and again, gives you that revamped secondary now with a lot of, again, physicality and speed. Fits the new style of the NFL. Every quarterback can run. You got to be able to have speedy defensemen on the field that can at least try to contain and keep up with some of those mobile quarterbacks, even if they're on the outside, like a cornerback position.
Yeah. So that leaves us with pick 59 and 66. We picked up both of those, and we end up getting pick 122. We get a 4th rounder. We didn't have a 4th rounder before. Now we have a 4th rounder. And in all that, we gave up one of our 3 6th rounders, the last 6th rounder of those 3. So that's where we're at right now. So pick 59, we got to, I think, talk about the elephant in the room, which is Ed Ingram. Yeah. They pick Ed Ingram out of LSU. He's a guard. Tape-wise, what you need to know about him, he's like one of the bigger kind of guys. He's known as a pass protector. It's like this cruel thing where he is the kind of guard that Vikings fans have been begging for years on the field. But because of his off the field, it's just always going to be a little awkward. He has been accused, this happened when he was in college, when he was 15 or 16, of sexual assault of 2 minors. I won't go into the details of it, but they're pretty troubling. And because of that, he served a lengthy suspension at LSU. He was indicted, and then the charges were dropped later, which could happen for a number of reasons. It's something I'm going to get into in a little more detail on Proper Locked On. But that's something that we kind of need to address. And then also what he'll actually be on the football field, which isn't going to disappear, even though some people might want that. It's not going to disappear, and this guy might end up being a starting right guard for the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, a lot to cover there for sure. And again, I'll be tuning into that episode when you dig a little bit deeper into some of the unknowns that, even myself, I'm just not completely caught up with that situation. And when you look at the talent on the field, the tape that you watched coming out of LSU, great program, obviously started at left guard and right guard, going to compete probably with the Davis boys, Wyatt and Jesse Davis, for that right guard spot. But it didn't seem like, with the off the field issues, the major red flags, that the talent really outweighed each other to use a second round pick on this guy. So seemed more like a 4th, 5th round pick. You take a flyer on him, hope he cleans up his act, and obviously everything is, squared away off the field as well. But again, I don't think a lot of people expected them to take maybe an interior lineman this high in the 2nd round. But if so, I think a lot of people probably had 3 or 4 names, if not more, right? Higher on the list, higher on the board than Ingram. So, yeah, for sure. Elephant in the room. That's definitely one way to put it. And I think, again, just kind of a lot of feeling uneasy about using such an early pick. I mean, there was so much hope and potential when we knew we were coming back after seeing in Booth with another big name. I mean, you expect a 2nd round pick to be a starter. I mean, maybe not day one.
I do expect him to be a starter.
Yeah.
Or to at least be in a competition for the job, and if he has to take a year or whatever.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, the Vikings certainly expect him to be a starter if you take a guy with the 59 pick. Somebody was banging the table for this guy in the war room. They certainly must expect and feel like he can come in and, again, win that job outright over Jesse and Wyatt Davis. So they certainly think that. They certainly think the world of him on the field to use a top 60 pick on him. And, again, I think is just a little bit higher than a lot of people thought. And then when you add in, again, the red flags, the question marks off the field, we just don't know about yet. At least I don't personally. It's just kind of a confusing pick for sure.
Yeah, and I think importantly, we can't know a lot of the details because once the charges were dropped, it was all sealed because the case involved minors. So that'll never come to see the light of day. So what we know about it now is what we'll know about it forever, and we kind of have to decide what our judgment is going to be. But it's the kind of thing where you kind of either you care about it and you take him off your board because you don't want that kind of guy in the organization, or you decide, and this is what Kwesi said, and they had Jamal Stevenson on the podium immediately when they picked him to come and explain away what happened here. And they were asked, like, okay, what's the deal? And he said, we looked into it, we did our background on him, and we felt comfortable with him. So to me, that tells me the Vikings do not see this incident as something that affects the value of Ed Ingram. Make of that what you will, and I think let's move on to the next guy, who is, speaking of adding speed, this is the guy that I think tells me a lot about the Donatel defense and what they're intending to do. Brian Asamoah out of Oklahoma. Smaller linebacker, but Kwesi just said, he's on the podium as we speak here, and he just said, it's not about how big you are, it's about how you get off blocks. And I think that's really salient, right? It's not like small linebackers tend to not be able to get off of blocks. But what we care about is if he can get off of blocks. If he's 150 pounds and he can get off of blocks, we take it, right? That I think is where the Vikings are at there. But otherwise, he's very speedy. He's good at coverage. He's much more of that sort of Eric Wilson type of linebacker than an Anthony Barr type of linebacker. And he'll kind of be a rotational player, hopefully contribute to some of the depth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny because the situation unfolded like this. There was guys like Troy Anderson who got sniped right before one of the picks of the Vikings, but you still had guys like Leo Chanel from Wisconsin, Chad Numa.
I would have preferred him.
Me too. And again, people like us, we can sit here, we watch the tape, we make our own big boards, we look at the mock drafts, we listen to the experts, but ultimately the Vikings have their own plan. And I like what you said. This gives us an idea, every pick, what they're looking to do defensively, schematically, what players they're trying to add, both offensively and defensively. And you look at a guy like Chad Muma, who I also had a lot higher on my board from Wyoming, 6'3", 240, and you have the opportunity to take him. Even like a guy like Nakobe Dean, who again obviously is smaller, so I'm contradicting myself here, but other big names there. But they go with the smaller guy, 6 foot, 224 pounds, but a speedy linebacker. And listen, they needed another body back there behind Eric Kendricks. Eric Wilson, sorry, he's long gone. Eric Kendricks and Jordan
legend.
Hicks. Yeah, Texas legend. Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks, they needed another young body in the mix there to compete with the Troy Dye. I don't know what they're going to do with, guys like DJ Wanham or Blake Lynch, Chaz Surratt. A lot of question marks still up in the air, but they needed to add another early pick and young body here with speed. So now we kind of have a little bit more insight, right? They cracked the door open. We can peek in now what they're looking for, what they're trying to do defensively under Donatel. And I think, again, if you're the Vikings, they'll tell you this was the guy that they really coveted. They really liked, all the cliches for sure. It did surprise me, though, again, with guys like Muma, Leo Chanel, Nakobe Dean. It just seemed like, again, it must tell you that they really fell in love with this guy and they love him.
Yeah, and we got a question here in the chat from Nobel War Prize that asked, how often do teams play 3 linebackers? Why are you taking a backup? That kind of thing. I would call him more of a rotational guy, which at 66, I think you need more than a rotational guy if you're going to take somebody that high. But maybe he's eventually the heir apparent to Eric Kendricks, and you can have all those dreams too. But there are definitely packages where you would have 3 linebackers on the field, certain like 3-3-5 nickel packages in 3rd and long situations, that kind of thing, or against teams that like to deploy a little more speed, teams with higher wide receivers, teams like the Rams or the Chiefs that like to run, 4 wide. You might want a little more speed at wide receiver, and you might want to put away your more, kind of hybrid pass rusher types that can only really do shallow zones. I think it's all going to be about packages, and you're going to have 16 players that you could kind of argue are starters and kind of not argue are starters. And you're going to have like 3 players on the whole team that are on the field every down. And that's kind of how these modern defenses tend to work. But I want to move on. Well, yeah,
real quick. That's exactly it. I mean, that's the modern NFL now. There's no base defense really anymore.
There's no such thing as a base defense.
Right. It's all these sub packages. I love that you brought up the 3-3-5 nickel. I'm interested to see if they run some 3-3-5 with 3 safety looks, perhaps.
Yeah.
Cam Bynum's certainly still going to be in the fold. And again, I think this is a sub package linebacker you're going to see fly around. He was great on the blitz. He was great getting after the quarterback when he could pin his ears back and just fly. So again, I think we kind of have a little bit more insight now as to the players that they wanted to target for those certain sub packages on defense. But I do agree with you. The whole point of moving all the way back from 12 to 32, it just put a lot of pressure on those next 3 picks. They nailed the first one, but the next 2 I thought were very underwhelming for, again, how early those picks were.
Right. And with Ingram, if you divorce Ingram on field from Ingram off field, which you can't ever do, but you can kind of pretend you are for a second. And if you pretend that doesn't exist for a second and you close your ears to it, I think you have a right guard that I would say is the heavy favorite to win the starting job. And that is a 2nd round pick. Okay, we'll take that. And it's more about the off field there. But I want to move on to tomorrow. Day 2 or day 3 coming up. Here's some names on the board that I had personally as day 2 players that are still available. Vikings pick next at 122 from all the trading. Perion Winfrey, Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, Cade Otton, the tight end, and Jamari Salyer. Those are some names that I had as day 2 guys. There's a lot of other people that people had as day 2 guys. Isaiah Spiller, Damari Mathis, Tyson Anderson. A lot of really interesting names out there. Who are you keeping an eye on for the Vikings at 122?
Well, you forgot the obvious one, Sam Howell.
Oh, of course, Sam Howell.
Sam Howell, baby. Get your Howell, baby. Let's go. By the way, we could do a whole episode on just what happened with these quarterbacks tonight. In fact, the whole draft weekend, that was absolutely
Titans
wild.
So perfect.
Oh man, you're not kidding.
Spot.
Atlanta as well. I mean, to sit behind Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder gets coming. Yeah, just very interesting though. Not the way anybody would have expected those quarterbacks to unfold. We knew the class wasn't great, but we still know the NFL covets the most important position, maybe in any sport, the quarterback. So it was just very interesting to see those quarterbacks unfold. Perron Winfrey for sure had a great Senior Bowl. More of that 3-tech and the 4-3 possibly. I don't know how he would adjust to a 5-tech. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to jump to some more cornerbacks because I was hoping they would double dip. And one of my favorite later round guys is still available. Ran a 4.26 at 6'4". Antonio Cromartie type of body style and play. What played receiver the majority of his career and then just flipped over to cornerback the last few years. So high ceiling, I'm talking about USTA's very own Tariq Woolen. I was surprised he didn't go today. I would assume he would go pretty early tomorrow at some point. Vikings may miss their chance, but he's a guy for sure I would love to see in purple. I'm just excited to kind of follow his path wherever he goes and see if he can maximize all that just rare ability. You just don't see guys like that, like a created player almost in Madden. It's just fun to watch him. Very, very raw for sure, though, nonetheless. Zion McCollum, Sam Houston State, small school pedigree for sure, so you're going to battle that. But again, I'm trying to double dip in that cornerback room, and I think Zion McCollum would make a lot of sense as well. So those are some guys. I'm sorry. I was going to say JoJo Doman. We already took a linebacker. We went over that. I think the other one, too, KOC is going to be itching to grab a receiver here at some point. I know the 3 wide receiver, 11 personnel is locked in. It's set. But I'm sure they want to add more depth. Amir Smith, Marset from Iowa certainly is going to probably just jump into that number 4 role. But I don't know, a guy like Khalil Shakir from Boise State, Calvin Austin III from Memphis. I thought he would be gone now. It was a deep class for wide receivers in that 2nd and 3rd tier. I hope they kind of try to take advantage of that and snipe one maybe tomorrow at some point. But yeah, I just thought at this point we would have more ammo to play with a little bit, the way Kwesi was moving around so much. And, they, correct me if I'm wrong, they moved up once, if not twice, and kind of had to, give away some extra ammo? Is that right with the Jets?
So they moved back.
Or am I mistaken?
They moved back with the Packers. They traded a 2nd rounder for 2 2nd rounders. I'm kind of stunned the Packers said yes to that. And then they moved up with the Colts. To do that, they did that basically in exchange of a 3rd and a 6th for a 4th.
And got it. Okay. So there was no other trades after that. For some
reason, those were the 2 trades. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, yeah. I was hoping they'd have a little bit more ammo at this point, but hey, what do we got? Still 4 more picks. You mentioned Kobe Bryant as well. I mean, that's 3 great cornerbacks on day 3 that I think any one of them would be a great number 4 option to come in and just, again, learn and progress under this Ed Donatel defense. So, yeah, there's always some big names when we get into the 4th and 5th round. I would love any of those names. I'm sure Perron Winfrey, though, I'm not sure how well, again, he translates to the 3-4. I'm sure, though, he'll probably go in the first 5-10 picks tomorrow. Would be my guess.
That makes sense for sure. So I'm going to go into way more depth on all of these guys on the Locked On Vikings podcast. That should be in all of your feeds tomorrow morning. You can find Luke Inman here. Tell them where they can find you.
Well, we got the Monday through Friday 30-minute podcast, me and Reggie Wilson from Care 11 on Superior Sports on the Locked On Podcast Network. You can check me out on Twitter as well, at Luke_Spinman. But absolutely love talking ball with you, especially Vikings, man.
Absolutely.
Especially during draft weekend. I think we're both going to need some sleep here soon, though.
What's that?
To say. Yeah.
All right. Thank y'all for coming by. We will be doing these after games as well. So doing a little test run here for the draft, and hopefully this kind of thing works out. We can keep doing them. Luke, thank you so much. And we will see you all later on our respective shows.
Thanks, Luke.